What really happened when kings lost their minds? Honestly, we don't think absolute power corrupts people so much as it just breaks them. One of these kings shook hands with a tree for several minutes, convinced it was a foreign monarch, while another spent 22 years locked in a room, waiting to find out if today was the day they killed him. These aren't legends from some ancient myth. They're real rulers losing their real minds in a crazy way. Number 7. King Erik XIV of Sweden. It is 1568. Erik XIV has been king of Sweden for 8 years. He speaks 5 languages, paints, composes music, and his generals respect him. By every measure, he is one of the most capable monarchs in Europe. Then he starts keeping lists. Not plans or budgets. Lists of people he believes want him dead. The names are not criminals or foreign spies. They are his own noblemen, his court officials, the people standing closest to him. He becomes convinced that Sweden's most powerful noble family, the Studes, are plotting against him. He has several of them arrested and locked inside Uppsala Castle in 1567. What happened next destroyed what was left of him. Erik walked into the prison, gave a set of orders nobody could follow, and within hours several members of the Stude family were dead. No trial, no evidence, just a king whose mind had finally given out. He then vanished into the forests outside Uppsala for days. He was found days later disguised as a peasant, seemingly convinced he was no longer king at all. A man who had shed his own identity, along with his crown. When his servants found him, he had no memory of what he had done. He eventually wrote a pardon for everyone involved, including himself. It reads less like a royal decree, and more like a man trying to convince himself he was not responsible. His brother John led a rebellion. Erik surrendered in 1568, and spent the next 9 years locked in a loop series of castles. He died in 1577, most likely poisoned via arsenic in his food, on John's orders. He was 44. Number 6. Queen Juana of Castile. It is 1506. Juana is 26, Queen of Castile, and her husband Philip I has just died of typhoid fever. She refuses to let them seal his coffin. For months, she travels through Spain with the open coffin, stopping at churches and convents along the way. She moved almost exclusively by night, holding to the belief that a grieving widow should not be seen in daylight. At stops along the way, she reportedly had the coffin reopened so she could kiss the corpse's feet, just to reassure herself Philip's body hadn't been stolen or replaced. She will not allow any woman near it. The court decides she has lost her mind. But here is what usually gets left out. Juana had been blocked from her own throne by her mother Isabella. Her husband Philip had taken control of her kingdom while she was alive, and now her father Ferdinand was using her so-called madness as legal cover to rule Castile himself. Every powerful person around her had something to gain from her appearing unstable. Whether she was genuinely ill or simply in the way is something historians still argue about. What is certain is what happened to her. Ferdinand had her locked in the castle of Tordesillas in 1509. She stayed there for 46 years and died inside those walls in 1555 at age 75. Her son became Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. He visited her twice. Number 5. Sultan Mustafa I. It is 1617. Sultan Ahmed I has just died, and rather than execute all potential rivals, as previous sultans had done, the Ottoman court decides to bring out Mustafa, Ahmed's brother, a man who has spent the last 14 years living inside a set of palace apartments, seeing almost no one. Mustafa lasts 3 months as sultan. He wanders the palace at night, hands gold coins to random servants, and then asks officials to retrieve them from the fountains he threw them into. He speaks to people who are not in the room. The court is watching a man who grew up in total isolation, now sitting on the throne of an empire of 25 million people. They remove him and replace him with his 14-year-old nephew, Osman II. But Osman is assassinated by his own soldiers in 1622, the first Ottoman sultan ever killed by his own military. So they bring Mustafa back out again. His second reign lasts just over a year. He spends most of it going back to the room where Osman died and asking where his nephew has gone. They remove him again in 1623. He lives out the rest of his life in confinement and dies in 1639. 2 reigns. Combined time on the throne? Less than 2 years. Number 4. King George III of Britain. It is October 1788. George III has been king for 28 years. His people call him Farmer George because of his simple habits and love of agriculture. He is stable, steady, and well-liked. Then one evening he starts talking and cannot stop. Not regular conversation, a flood of words at full speed, no pauses, no responses needed, sometimes going for hours. One night he reportedly spoke for 19 consecutive hours. He would talk for so long without pause that he began to foam at the mouth, his voice reduced to a hoarse rasp by the end of it. His eyes go unfocused. He grabs a page by the collar during a walk outside and shoves him against a wall, apparently unaware he has done anything unusual. On another occasion, in Windsor Great Park, he reportedly stopped his carriage, walked up to an oak tree, and shook hands with one of its branches, holding a conversation with it, because he believed he was speaking with the King of Prussia. His doctors respond with cold baths, physical restraints, and blistering agents applied to his skin, all standard treatments at the time. Every single one of them makes him worse. He recovers, then relapses in 1801, recovers again. Then, in 1810, his youngest daughter dies, and he breaks completely, entering a decline he never comes back from. He spends his final years at Windsor Castle, blind and deaf, wandering the halls at night and talking to people who had been dead for decades. Doctors today believe he had acute intermittent porphyria, a condition that causes severe neurological episodes. He died in 1820 after 60 years on the throne. Number 3. Emperor Rudolph II. It is 1583. Rudolph II has just moved the capital of the Holy Roman Empire from Vienna to Prague. Not for politics. He prefers the light there for his artwork. Rudolph is not unstable in the obvious ways. He is brilliant. He speaks 6 languages, funds serious scientific work, and employs Tycho Brahe and Johannes Kepler, whose research at his court leads directly to the laws of planetary motion. He is one of the most cultured rulers in European history. He is also completely unable to govern. By the 1590s, he stops meeting foreign ambassadors altogether. He never marries, refuses to name an heir, and avoids any conversation about succession. His ministers send requests and wait weeks for answers that rarely come. Meanwhile, the Ottoman Empire is advancing into Hungary, and the tension between Catholics and Protestants is building toward what will eventually become the 30 Years' War. Rudolph stays in his rooms with his paintings, his scientific instruments, and his private zoo. By 1611, his brother Matthias strips his kingdoms away one by one. Rudolph keeps the title of Holy Roman Emperor until he dies in 1612. By then it means almost nothing. He died with his art collection and his animals, while Europe drifted toward one of its bloodiest centuries. Number 2. King Ludwig II of Bavaria. It is 1864. Ludwig II is 18 years old and has just been crowned King of Bavaria. He is withdrawn and uncomfortable in public, and obsessed with the music of Richard Wagner, a composer he has never actually met. Within days of taking the throne, he tracks Wagner down, clears the composer's debts, and sets him up in a villa by a lake at the state's expense. Wagner is 50, self-serving, and takes everything offered without hesitation. Ludwig does govern, at least early on. He steers Bavaria through 2 wars in 4 years and makes the political decision to join the newly unified German Empire, which protects Bavarian autonomy without a fight. He is not a failure as a ruler. He is simply drifting further and further from reality with each passing year. Through the 1870s, the castles take over. Neuschwanstein, Linderhof, Herrenchiemsee. He communicates with architects at all hours of the night, micromanaging every detail of the interiors. He eats dinner alone in rooms set for guests who are never coming. He talks to portraits. His ministers go weeks without seeing him. In 1886, a panel of psychiatrists who have never examined him in person declare him insane, based on second-hand accounts, and have him removed from power. He is 40 years old. The next evening, June 13, 1886, Ludwig and the lead psychiatrist who signed the declaration are both found dead in Lake Starnberg. The water where they were found was less than a meter deep. Ludwig was a strong swimmer. No one has ever produced a satisfactory explanation. The case remains open. Number 1. Sultan Ibrahim I. It is 1623. Ibrahim is 9 years old. His brother, Murad IV, has just become sultan, and from this day forward, Ibrahim's entire world is a set of rooms inside the Topkapi Palace. He is not technically imprisoned. He is simply kept there, fed and supervised, while his brothers are quietly eliminated one by one. Every day of his childhood, he lives without knowing whether the knock at his door is routine or final. He spends 22 years like this. In 1640, Murad dies. Ibrahim is the last surviving male in the Ottoman dynasty. The palace officials open his door and tell him he is sultan. He refuses to come out. He is convinced it is a trap. His mother, Kösem Sultan, has to bring Murad's actual body to the doorway before Ibrahim believes it and steps outside. What followed was not cruelty. It was collapse. A man who had spent his entire adult life in fear, with no responsibilities and no normal human relationships, was handed absolute power over an empire of millions. His behavior becomes erratic and extravagant almost immediately. He issues contradictory orders. He indulges obsessively in ways that drain the treasury. His grip on the reality of governing never fully forms. He was not the worst ruler in Ottoman history. He was the most predictable one. The palace system built him this way, and then put him on the throne anyway. And when he became too difficult to manage, it had him strangled in 1648. He was 32 years old.